It looks like we have an update on the status of AEW's next TV rights contract. What's going on? Where will the tape library end up? And where will they go to? We have a little bit more clarity about this from a pretty reliable source. So sit back, relax. I'm going to answer all your questions. I'm Omer Q for Real Take Wrestling. Be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Okay, so there's been a lot of talk about TV rights deals. WWE, of course, they have settled all of their TV rights deals for their next contract. Raw is going to Netflix. SmackDown is going to USA. NXT ended up on the CW somehow, and NWA is also on the CW, so that's going to be a little interesting thing going on there. But where will AEW land? Of course, in the eyes of many, myself included, the most likely and most reasonable landing spot, given their current relationships, is Warner Brothers Discovery and staying on TBS, TNT, something to that effect, right? Well, we have a little bit of an update from Andrew Zarian of the Mat Men Pro Wrestling podcast. He is pretty well sourced with these things, and he's correct most of the time about a lot of these big things within the TV rights and TV network spaces. So he says that he feels confident that an AEW deal with Warner Brothers Discovery and Max will happen. Here is the quote from today's Mat Men Pro Wrestling podcast. He said, quote, "I do feel confident that the deal is happening. I do feel confident that their library is going somewhere on Max. I don't feel like AEW is in danger of losing their TV. In fact, as far as I know, there are more opportunities for AEW on WBD properties, and that has a lot to do with with outside of pro wrestling as well." So a lot to unpack there. The first point being that AEW, the most likely landing spot, still seems to be Warner Brothers Discovery Max. We have talked about this on this channel a lot. Just recap very quickly. I mean, they have a well-established relationship with Max. Tony Khan at every turn discusses how important that relationship is, not only to himself personally, but the company as well. So it really does seem like it's the most likely landing spot. You look at their TV ratings on Wednesday nights, Dynamite is more times than not the number one show on Wednesday night in that time slot, and people can cry about ratings. They can say, oh, they're only 800,000. Anyone who says that, I don't think truly understands the way that TV is changing and the amount of people that are cutting the cords. Like, it doesn't matter that AEW Dynamite ratings aren't what they were, last year or 2 years ago, because of the fact that they are still the number one show in their time slot. That just speaks to the changing, tide of TV and the people cutting the cord. If you look at Raw's ratings, I believe for Q4 at least, like quarter to quarter, they declined at a very similar rate. Q4 2022 to Q4 2023, they declined at a very similar rate. So it is what it is. People can cry foul all they want. It's just untrue that their TV is failing. Now, if you look at, where else they could have gone, there really is no other place outside of ESPN. And when you think about Warner Brothers Discovery, you are trying to get, the NBA to re-sign. You're trying to make sure that in case that doesn't happen, you have a flagship property that is going to be a massive draw for a live television. AEW is that property. Like, that is the ultimate backup plan for to have if you're Warner Brothers Discovery, to remain relevant in this space. Like, that is what this is about. And if they get the NBA as well, that's great, because then they can be even more dominant. So for Warner Brothers, it's a calculation of like, let's make sure that we have these live TV properties that people are going to tune into, whether it's on live TV or whether it's on streaming, as Andrew alluded to. So here's the thing. There's been a lot of talk about this new streaming venture that's happening. I believe it's Hulu, Disney, and Warner Brothers Discovery all kind of teaming up to join forces in this ultimate sports live stream package. And the gist is that, like live sports like the NBA and all that kind of stuff will end up leaving Max pretty soon and going over to whatever this new sports streaming service is going to be. And if you ask me, I think AEW would be a great place for that. And I think, if you're Tony Khan and you're AEW and you're looking at the way that people are cutting the cord, if you have a system in place that allows you to simulcast AEW Dynamite, AEW Collision, Rampage on Max or whatever streaming service it would be, as well as on live cable, that is big because you are growing your reach. You are also, going to be able to cross promote even more than you already are with other properties. And on top of all of that, it's going to allow you eventually, when the time does come for, AEW to make the move over to streaming, if that time ever does come, there's going to be some sort of precedent. There's going to be results there for Warner Brothers or whoever to look at and say, all right, here's what they did, here's how well they did, and here's our plan of action to make sure that, this is as profitable and as, a best transition as possible. Now, the other note here that Andrew mentioned was about the tape library, and that is something that, we have all kind of waited to see where AEW's tape library is. Right now, there is really no tape library unless you want to pay like $20 a pop for each pay-per-view on Bleacher Report, which I personally am not going to do. But outside of that, there's really no option to go back and watch past Dynamite, to go back and watch, past pay-per-views. AEW is gotten to the point where, they have a massive library. Like, they have been running a weekly show, at least one weekly show for the better part of the past, 4 years. And then on top of that, you add Rampage, you add all of the different things they could do, the documentaries that they have out there, the AEW stories, the AEW timelines, like all this cool stuff that they have on their YouTube channel, AEW Dark as well. There's a lot of library out there for AEW, and that's not even including the Ring of Honor stuff, which Andrew alluded to, like, we don't know where Ring of Honor stands with this Warner Brothers deal, but if they add that in there, like, that could be huge. It's got great value for AEW, in my opinion. So if there is that place for, people to go watch past Dynamites, go watch past moments in AEW, kind of like the WWE Network or Peacock is now, that's great. And I think you're going to see a lot of people, a lot of fans who have been clamoring for something like this, who have been, wanting something like this, especially if, like, there's a situation where AEW Dynamite the next night is available on Max or something. That's big. That's big. You're going to see a lot of people, I think, either stay on Max or sign up for Max to watch that. Because let me tell you something, like, the rewatchability of wrestling is something that I think people took for granted for a while. And, obviously a lot of, like, TV people and people in the streaming space didn't really take note of it until WWE Network came out, and it was a huge success. Like, people can say, like, oh, only 1 million subscribers or whatever. Like, that's still 1 million people signing up for a startup streaming service. That's big. Last thing that I'm going to mention here or talk about is, prospects for, Warner Brothers discovering AEW to do things outside of pro wrestling. So I've discussed cross promotion here on this channel before that AEW and both WWE and AEW have done. Now, the thing here is, I think if this next deal, is fruitful and AEW do sign, I think you look for them to add another show. I think AEW will likely add, like, another show, and I don't think it'll be a wrestling show. I think it might be a reality show, similar to Roads to the Top with some of their best stars, similar to AEW Backstage. I think you could also see, some cross-promotion on game shows. Remember, Cody Rhodes, he hosted a game show with Snoop Dogg on TBS back when he was in AEW. So there's, I think, going to be a lot more to build on in this partnership moving forward if they end up signing this TV deal. A lot of exciting stuff happening in All Elite Wrestling. A lot of exciting stuff happening in the world of professional wrestling. And Real Take Wrestling's got you all covered for it. Guys, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Check out the archives for all your latest news, notes. I reacted to The Rock's entire promo that he cut on Twitter. That thing was insane. Go check it out. But until next time, be happy, be healthy, and as always, keep it real.